What's up? So if you're confused about politics, have no idea who you're going to vote for, and swinging towards the Democratic side of things, I'm going to be talking about what Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders each plan to do as president based on their issues. So let's start with Hillary Clinton. She swings a little bit more towards the right wing than Obama does, definitely more than Sanders, and is probably one of the most conservative Democrats. She agrees with Obama on a lot of issues and wants to continue where he left off, but still has a lot of issues of her own. She's the current Democratic frontrunner and is someone who likes to get stuff done. So what does she want to get done? So for starters, she wants to raise minimum wage to $12 an hour. She's also calling for major immigration reform. She wants to make it easier for immigrants to embark upon the quest for citizenship by lowering the fees associated with it, increasing language programs, and so on. Clinton wants universal health care. She wants to improve Obamacare and crack down on rising prescription costs and have those companies focus more on research instead of jacking up the prices. So what about those jobs? Hillary wants to strengthen investment in American manufacturing. Detroit! She also wants to give incentives for companies that hire Americans, build up the country's infrastructure, and create jobs in scientific research. So speaking of money, how well has Hillary done for herself? Well, she's rich. She's worth about $30 million, which she's made through book sales, investments, and speeches. Hillary wants students to be able to take advantage of current interest rates, which are most likely lower than they were when they took out the loan. It's pretty cool. And if you still have student debt after 20 years, well, it's just going to be forgiven. You don't have to pay anymore, it's fine. She also has a strong emphasis on standing up against gun violence. To do this, she wants to do all the usual things like close the gun show loophole, the internet loophole. She also wants to stand up against the NRA and even wants to hold gun dealers and manufacturers responsible for how their guns are used. In other words, if Crazy Guy decides to go Dirty Harry on somebody, Smith & Wesson is going to be held accountable for that. Speaking of violence, how does she plan to go after ISIS? So for starters, she wants to deploy no U.S. combat troops and instead use the special forces. She wants to implement a no-fly zone in Syria, continue airstrikes, involve the cooperation of other countries such as Russia, and attack them online. She wants to improve on Wall Street reform and tax high-risk trades. She also wants less death penalty. You killed like 5 people this year, maybe kill like 4 next year. Maybe just start like lowering it a little bit. So where does she stand on the weed? She doesn't want to decriminalize it federally, but she wants to leave it up to individual states to make their own rules. Hillary actually supported the Patriot Act and even gives Bush credit for the way he set the tone after 9/11. She even wants to increase NSA surveillance, which is actually really scary. I don't want them to read my text messages or see my porn searches. I mean, that's private. I might have to vote for Bernie on this one. She wants to invest in clean energy, and has a plan to make existing energy infrastructure cleaner, and she wants to make a pact with Mexico and Canada to reduce greenhouse emissions. She also supports fracking and offshore drilling. So what about the burn? Bernie Sanders has labeled himself as a Democratic Socialist, a word that scares a lot of Republicans. But just in case you're confused, no, he doesn't want to implement Stalin's rule. It basically just means he's super liberal. He wants things like free college, free healthcare, and he wants to help out the poor and working class a lot more so than the rich. Even though he's behind Hillary in the polls, he's very popular amongst young voters and on the internet. So let's find out why. Well, for starters, he wants to raise minimum wage to $15 an hour. Like I said, he wants universal health care, he wants to get rid of private insurance, lower prescription drug costs, and import prescription drugs from Canada. He also wants to restore discounts for low-income seniors. His stance on immigration is similar to Hillary's. He wants immigrants to have an easier path toward citizenship. So, what about those jobs? Sanders wants to spend $1 trillion over the next 5 years to build up the country's infrastructure, a move that'll create and maintain 13 million jobs, a bit similar to the public works program under Roosevelt. I'm not talking about America Works. So, what about Sanders' money? He's worth about $420 million. Wow, he is not worth 400. That's insane. Bernie Sanders is worth about 420,000. Coincidence? I don't think so. So, where does his money come from? Well, he's a senator. They pay him for it. That's basically it. This actually makes him relatable to a lot more people. However, I think that if you're successful in your personal life, you're going to be successful as president. Even though money might not be as important to him as making the country a better place. Maybe I should just vote for Trump. He also wants to decrease NSA surveillance, which I'm excited about because, now the government won't find out about Sterling's happy time. Bernie also wants to end the death penalty. He doesn't hold guns that high up on his priority list, however he wants to do all the common things like end the gun store loophole and improve instant background checks. Speaking of violence, how does Bernie plan to tackle ISIS? He wants to continue airstrikes and involve neighboring countries like the Saudi Arabian Air Force and ground troops from Jordan. And form a core militia. This is why I'm never going to run as president. There'll be so many videos on YouTube of me misspeaking and stuff. That's just not going to work. Maybe it's because I'm drinking tequila. Oh, see that? Just took a drink of tequila, now I can speak better. That's how it works. He wants to form a coalition with Muslim countries to take down ISIS. Bernie wants to make all public colleges free and make it to where the government no longer profits off of student loans. So, how is he going to pay for this? Bernie Sanders is calling for major Wall Street reform. In fact, it's one of his main issues. First off, he wants to put a 0.5% tax on all Wall Street trades, which is the exact reason why Warren Buffett stands with Hillary. He wants to put a $2 cap on ATM fees, which is better, and a 15% limit on credit card interest. One of his slogans is also, if it's too big to fail, it's too big to exist. He wants to break up the corporations that are too big to fail, and he wants to prevent them from getting discounts from the Federal Reserve. So where does Bernie Sanders stand on the weed? Well, he wants to make it legal, completely decriminalize it. Another reason why he's popular with young voters. That's right, a Bernie nation is a fun nation. Can you feel the burn? Can you feel that joint burning? So this is the most important issue, and I've saved it for last so I could compare them both on it directly. Let's start out with Bernie. Why should you vote for Bernie Sanders? Because he's cool. He says he smoked weed twice. Just twice, but definitely a groovy dude. So now why should you vote for Hillary Clinton? Because she's cool. Hillary Clinton entered into a drinking contest with John McCain. They were drinking vodka. But they both respectfully decided to call it a draw after they both got really fucked up. So that's Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton's stance on some of the major issues. I know I left a lot of issues out and didn't go into depth about some of them. Which issues are the most important to you, and which ones would you like to hear me talk about? I'm going to be doing another one of these videos for Donald Trump, because all you ever hear about him is that he wants to build like a giant wall, and he wants to ban all Muslims. But, other than that, that's really all anyone, talks about. So let me know where your thoughts are. Are you going to turn up with Hillary, or are you going to smoke down with Bernie?